You could think of any masculine man, and truthfully, if he's like an actual successful masculine man, he would genuinely be on his hands and knees wiping up the floor with the person whose like fault it is. But these masculine men would have taken responsibility for it. So why don't we? How about you start to see responsibility like a skill? Like, you know, in video games, we had different skills, didn't we? We had the magic skill and the attack skill and this skill and this skill. What if you start to see responsibility as a skill and realize that your responsibility skill level, you're a noob. You're a noob in this skill because you don't take much responsibility. But if you start to gain experience in this responsibility skill by just constantly, you know, looking out for the opportunities where you can take responsibility for something, whether it's a mess on the floor, whether it's making money for your family, or it's helping someone, or it's doing something, or it's saying something. If you take more and more responsibility and gain experience and levels in this skill, it will mean that you can become more independent and actually be capable of more things yourself. Because a man who's responsible for the mess on the floor can go on to be responsible for a family. But a man who won't be responsible for the mess on the floor, think about how much responsibility he's going to take with his family, with his work. Think about it. The guy who wouldn't clean up that mess in that situation I'm telling you about, the guy who'd be like, you know, the pussy, and this is most guys, this is probably you, this is me for most of my life, right? Oh yeah, no, guys, it wasn't me. You know, you'd be hoping that everyone knew that, and you'll kind of silently just go like sit somewhere else, right? Because we're all fucking awkward these days. Well, that kind of guy, if you wouldn't take responsibility for this, chances are you're not going to take responsibility for actually making some real money, for actually providing for your family, for actually finding like a good woman. So we've got to take responsibility for these small things. And this is why you've probably seen a lot of those cringe videos and pieces of advice of people saying like, oh, make your bed. You've heard that advice before, yeah? Make your bed. Oh, if you want to make $1 million, start by making your bed. Well, the reason why successful people say this, Jordan Peterson says this, David Goggins says this, that, okay, you got to start with making your bed. It's because you've got to take responsibility for something. It's not that making your bed, suddenly there's going to be cash in your bank account. Of course not. But making your bed will give you some responsibility experience. It will get, you know, some XP in this skill. It'll give you some momentum so you take more responsibility throughout the day because, you know, it's going to be in your mind, yeah, I'm making my bed because I want some responsibility XP because Hamza mentioned it in his video. And you'll start to take more responsibility and suddenly you'll start to take responsibilities for some big things like making a fuck ton of money so you can provide for your family. How can you expect to do that when you wouldn't take responsibility for anything else? Number 5, show respect. I think showing respect and being polite and having manners is a fantastic part of your character, which you can develop very easily. Now, I was born in Pakistan and my family moved here to the UK when I was about 2 years old. And the British has this kind of very polite culture, which I've always really resonated with. You're taught from a very young age to say please and thank you. And you show this sign of respect to your fellow person that it's so normal that everywhere you go here, people are saying, please, thank you, sorry. And it's like this basic level of respect, which makes you seem like a good member of your society. It makes you seem like you're a gentleman. Now, I actually think there's one level we can go past this. So, okay, show respect, have manners, be polite. That's awesome. One thing that I really do find interesting is that people who are polite often are still going through some shit in their minds. Still, some people who are really polite and they've got manners, they're still actually bad people. You can actually have this weird mix where you can be outwardly manipulative in a certain way. Quite a lot of people are like this, quite like psychopathic people, quite nice and generous, but because they know that it will benefit them in some ways. And inside of their brain, they're actually quite negative and dark. And so one thing that I can tell you that would really help you, if you can relate to what I'm saying, is like, okay, maybe you're a bit polite and, you know, you've got manners, but inside of your mind, you're actually a bit of an asshole and you know this, right? It might be worth to try and condition your brain to be nicer to people. So not just to be nicer to people, but to program your brain to, like, literally the thoughts that you get to make them actually more positive. Because, you know, right now, like, you know, saying, yeah, make sure you say please and thank you. That's like level 1. That's like forcing someone to do something. But if we can make someone genuinely love other people, that person's going to be polite anyway, aren't they? And so there's two ways to do this. One is through a practice called loving kindness meditation. So just like you've probably heard of meditation, so just like the way we meditate, which we'll focus on our breathing, there's another meditation style where instead of focusing on your breathing, you actually focus on like love and positive thoughts and feelings towards people. So instead of, inhale, exhale, you'll literally just close your eyes. And you can do this with me right now. Close your eyes and just picture someone in your community. And just think to yourself, like, they're actually probably a good person. And they've probably got a lot in common with you. And, the fact that they live nearby. And you could actually genuinely think really highly of this person. You could think of a bunch of good things about them. So why don't you? Why don't you be this guy right now? Why don't you just think about this person? And actually say the words in your mind, like, I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm glad that you're in my community. I'm glad that my memories, my existence, my consciousness has you in them. Thank you for making up the world, the experiences that I get to enjoy as a human being. It's a very, very powerful practice. And this kind of meditation has been shown to increase like compassion in people. It's been shown to essentially make people more empathetic and compassionate to each other. But there's one more thing, like that, to be honest, some people really like it, but to me, it's never really worked that well. It's like some nice goofy thing that I can try every now and then, but I never got into doing it consistently. But there was a different mindset, an analogy that made a bigger difference for me. And it's from the book, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And the analogy is to assume that your brain is a thought factory, like a factory where things are produced, right? And this factory is ran by either two foremen, two bosses, or two managers, Mr. Triumph and Mr. Defeat. Mr. Triumph comes in and he produces the thoughts that make you feel positive, pleasant, happy, joyful, loving. Mr. Triumph will come in and produce the thoughts that say, oh, there's that person that I usually see. Good for them that they're out on this run today. That's awesome. I'm actually really glad this person's in my community. Look, there's a cute family there.